we are going to start with Donald Trump because we have some information. You know that the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan has said that Michael Cohen made it clear that when he paid Stormy Daniels that $130,000 hush money, that it was at the direction of Donald Trump. Well, we now have information, specific information, that really proves that in a big way.
Yeah, puts it squarely on Michael Cohen because he was the one who was dealing with Stormy Daniels and her people when they drafted the $130,000 hush money agreement.
And we should explain, her people include a lawyer, a PR type person. So she did have people who were shopping her around, and they were at a point willing to sell the story. And that's when Donald Trump and company decided, let's bury this thing.
Right. So they strike the deal. $130,000.
In October, which is less than a month before the election.
So getting down to the wire. So Stormy signs it and then is waiting for the check.
Well,
and she's waiting.
She's waiting for them to sign. She signed first, and she's waiting for the Trump people or Cohen or somebody to sign the document in order for her to seal the deal and get the money.
Well, she was waiting a little too long and was not getting that signature, was not getting the money. And I think she was probably worried that she was about to lose leverage.
So after the election,
she has no leverage.
And so we're told she wanted to just drop it and then go out and sell the story to somebody else.
Right.
So her people call Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen says, look, my client is on the road, and I promise you that we will sign this, but I have to talk to him when he gets back to New York City to make it square.
So
the client
what he is clearly Donald Trump. And what he's saying is, I'm not going to sign this document until Donald Trump okays me signing it. So that's him saying the deal can't be done without Donald Trump. So clearly Donald Trump knew. And
we also know that the people, at least one of the people who was representing Stormy Daniels, flew back to New York City this summer and basically laid this whole thing out to the FBI and explained this very story. So when the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan says it's not just Michael Cohen saying it, there was other evidence, and this is good evidence, showing that it was all Donald Trump that made the decision.
So we're not, I mean, we know what happened now, right? I mean, we know that Donald Trump was behind this payment. We know that he actually did it in an effort to stop her story from coming out until at least after the election, realizing that it might come out at some point. And now what? So now what? I mean, is ultimately the question,
right? It's a good question, Jason, and we're going to bring in someone who is in charge of So Now What? And that is U.S. Representative Brendan Boyle from Pennsylvania. He is joining us right now to talk about what this means and will there be an impeachment. Representative Boyle, welcome to TMZ Live. How are you doing?
Hey, doing pretty well. Great to be back with you guys.
Thank you. So, you know, Jason just raised the issue, so what? So now there is arguably a campaign violation. Does that rise to the level, in your head, of an impeachable offense?
Yeah, so just to be clear, you actually have now in court filings the United States government saying twice that, quote unquote, individual one committed felonies. Individual one who, while they don't name individual one, they later go on to say individual one.
It's Donald Trump.
Individual one went on to become president of the United States. So pretty clear that it's Donald Trump. So the answer is yes. And the reality is that Bill Clinton was impeached for far less. Now, the question then becomes, okay, why aren't we rushing to impeachment tomorrow or January 3rd when Democrats take over? I believe that the complete investigation from Robert Mueller, from the Office of Special Counsel, has to be concluded. All that having been said, though, I'm not going to be coy. I've always, frankly, thought that it's inevitable that we would have Judiciary Committee hearings on impeachment because just from what we know in the public domain, there's clearly enough there.
So, Congressman, I understand what you're saying about waiting until the Mueller probe is done, But what if that comes back and they don't have collusion? Would you then try to impeach just based on the campaign violation?
Yeah, my one quibble, I guess, or problem with your hypothetical is we already know enough now that there clearly was some level of coordination or a conspiracy between senior levels of the Trump presidential campaign and members of the Russian government. And you don't have, and there aren't, let's be clear, there aren't too many, links in the chain. We're talking about Russian government to Julian Assange, who's also WikiLeaks, to Stone, to then the Trump campaign. So it's not exactly like 6 degrees of separation.
Well, let's assume that somehow he inoculated himself in terms of collusion. When it comes to the Stormy Daniels thing, I was thinking about this yesterday. What if he argues, hey, yes, I paid $130,000 and I directed it, but I didn't do it to make sure that I was going to win the presidency. I did it because I didn't want Melania to find out. And that was my motivation.
I think that that's their strongest argument. I mean, if I were to be, free legal counsel to the other side, and by the way, I'm actually not a lawyer, although Trump doesn't allow qualifications to get in the way of hiring people, it seems like. But anyway, I would give them the advice that seems to be their strongest argument. Now, the problem with that is that it was October of 2016.
Right.
Why didn't you make this deal at any point in the preceding?
Well, because there's an answer to that, which is my understanding is that's around the time she came forward because she had the most leverage.
Right. So which has to do with the campaign. And the reason why she would have leverage is that Trump didn't want this to come out for campaign purposes. So I think that that's going to be the argument that they make. The fact that you have cooperation from Trump's own personal attorney to be able to refute that and say that it's not true is extremely significant and I think very damning for Donald Trump.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Congressman, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
My understanding is you're 41 years old, right?
I am, yes.
Do you get carded when you go into bars?
I actually haven't I haven't been carded in the last couple of years. So,
just the last couple. Okay.
So far for the last 18 to 24 months, I'm on a hot streak. And it does appear as if there are new members of Congress coming in that look even younger than I do, and I'm very relieved about that.
Wear it as a badge of honor, sir.
Yes.
I heard it's going to be an advantage at some point. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, well, it will be. Listen, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have a good holiday.